So here we are at the house now with Johnny Baker, and we're going to talk about how he got into trucking. And another thing too, I just want to tell you how much I appreciate you giving. This is an opportunity for me to thank you for giving me a chance. I mean, you know how one door will open another. Had you not gave me that job, I would have never got my Air Liquide job. They said I was the youngest driver they had ever hired at that time. I think they hired somebody younger, but I was 27. But if I wouldn't have had the experience with you, I would have never got that job. So I really appreciate it, because not a lot of people would give a 19-year-old a trucking job. And that's the problem with that stuff, is you got to have experience, but where do you get it at the beginning?
Right.
So now that that's out of the way, why don't you tell us about your history in trucking and how you got started, and Baker Oil and all your racing. We didn't even talk about that yet. It's too cold to talk about too much outside. We picked a good day. It's 40 and I don't know, 20, 30 mile an hour wind, I bet.
Yesterday was much better.
We do everything the hard way.
I don't know where to start. My grandfather, Carl Hall, the Quonset hut we were there at, the ground that we were on, it's owned by my sister right now, but today, he was in trucking. I told you that Quonset hut, I found on the inside of it a delivery decal when I redone the inside of it years and years ago. That was 1949, I believe. And so he was in trucking or whatever from way back. My dad, his family was in farming, and Dad worked there for Grandpa when he was 20 years old, 18, 19, 20 years old in there. And the union come along, had some problems, and so they had to lay off some people because he was the youngest, had worked the least or whatever. Then he got laid off. He went down to Smith Transfer. And a funny part of this is, in 65, I come home to the house that my dad died in. And so from 65 on, that's where he lived.
Okay.
And that house cost $3,000.
Wow.
And in 65, he said he thought he'd never get that paid for.
Isn't that amazing?
And I think at the time, I believe he made $45 a week. And so when he turned around and went to Smith Transfer, he went over the road and was out for like 2 weeks at a time. And he went from $45 to $300 a week.
Big difference.
And he said he just stayed just like he was making 45.
Yeah.
So he saved up money pretty quick, and Tolliver oil product become available. And so he bought that when I was 10 years old.
So that's what it was called, Tolliver oil
product.
Okay. So who do you?
And that was Ashland at the time, Earl Tolliver. And Earl Tolliver is a world champion skeet or trap shooter.
Yeah.
And at one time, he had the Rooker. I don't know if I say this right, but I want to say in competition, he had over 4,500 consecutive hits without a miss. And I think now that number's up to 10,000. But that was back when we bought that in '75. He had done that, I think, in the late '60s. But anyway, so Dad bought Baker Oil, and I went along, and when I was 24, I bought that from him.
Okay, so you said you were 10. What year would that? So what year?
I was 10 in '75.
Okay, so he bought it in 1975.
Yeah.
Okay, and you bought it in 1990.
1990. And so then, as we went along, within just a few years of buying it, the money I'd paid for, Mom and Dad for it, I believed I'd be able to go on and do whatever and make those payments, and I could add to it and this, that, and the other. In the end, I paid too much for it, but at the time, I thought I was invincible. I thought I could do that. And the Payola station down there, stations went in down at English and Marengo that took about half of our business, because we brought all those people up there by low gas prices.
Okay.
And so
now that's something.
So that sunk me.
Did that station go with you buying the company?
I bought Baker Oil. I bought the gas station at Payola, and then I bought the rolling stock, which was at tank wagon you saw, that 87
Yeah.
Peterbilt, and I had an 89 Heil trailer.
You know, I never thought about the Paley station going with that.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't see. There's something I didn't
Yeah.
know.
And right there at Orleans that's just the bulk plant. You know, it's just
Right.
that's where you stored the fuel to deliver to home heating or.
And so those tanks that are behind the office there, they were already there when your dad bought it?
Yeah, they were. That has been there, I want to say, since 1930.
Wow.
And it was Ashland. Originally Aetna was bought by Ashland, and then Ashland had, after my dad bought it, Ashland then wanted to sell their stations and stuff. They wanted to get out of that. So he had to come up with money then to buy the Sprint station there in Orleans. You'll notice the building looks a lot like ours at Paola. Well, he allowed Ashland to sell that was north side Ashland. The one across from Huck's was south side Ashland. So Dad bought that one because that was the busiest corner in town here in Orleans.
Oh, you know what? I forgot that.
So north side Ashland, Donnie, oh wow, I can't think of his name, Donnie. But anyway, he bought that one, and so Dad and him worked together for a year or so, and then he got his own trucks and things. And then east side, the station there at Paola is called East Side.
Okay.
And we redone that in about 1980.
Okay. I would see my whole time I've been alive, I don't think the Ashland station across from Huck's was ever a gas station. So that was a service station.
Yeah.
Gas pumps.
And that was identical. The building is damn near identical to the one that was over at Paola, and very similar to the one that was Orleans. The buildings on all three of them were basically kind of the same.
Okay. Yeah, I never thought about that being a gas station because it never was one.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Dad rented it for a few years, 3 years, something like that, 4 years, and then that was it. Just closed it up and did away with it. But and we still own the property and a couple of lots there beside it now and stuff. But that's kind of how got our start or whatever. And of course, Dad, I don't know, from 10 years old on, I was with Dad all the time, kind of working in it and doing things. So it's kind of.
So you owned. How did the Bedford gas station come to be?
When I bought Mom and Dad, then I want to say within that year, Opal Hall, and that's no relation of ours, but Opal Hall come to me and wanted me to rent his stations up there, wanted me to run them. He wanted me to run 16th Street. And they were going to widen the road, and if the station was open, at the time when they widened it, then they'd pay him a lot more money.
Oh, right.
So he let me I said, he wanted me to buy them. And I told him, I said, I just don't know that I can get them to do the gallons I need. And so he gave me a real cheap rate to run them. And so the one on 16th Street I let go, but the one out there on 037, he owned both of those.
Was
And
that
that one
Lincoln
there
Avenue?
I bought for $25,000.
Really?
Yeah.
Lincoln Avenue, wasn't it? Isn't that what you was
Lincoln
called?
Avenue. And I can tell you that in just a few years' time, I had that doing 180,000 gallon a month, which is an enormous amount. And that built the old canopy on it and this, that, and another. I mean, it was just as crazy as hell. The whole deal was just crazy as hell.
I think that when you said that sparked something in me. I don't think people realize how much gas a station will go through, especially on a holiday weekend like this. I mean, you think there's a bottomless pit you're dumping this into. I mean, you got to think you're hauling almost 9,000 gallons of gas, and then the next day you're going back and taking another load in there, which just seems like it's amazing that a gas station could go through that much gas. But
Yeah.
I just think when you said that, I was like,
a gas station that does 2,000 to 3,000 gallon is a pretty good station.
A day?
A day. I don't know, there's just a lot of crazy things. When we first started, I'll tell you this little story. They're on Lincoln Avenue years ago, and this is just how Dad made his money. And my dad was pretty smart in things to not had probably a ninth grade education. And so at the time, interest rates were way high. And when he went to buy Baker Oil, he went to the Orleans Bank to try to borrow the money. And they turned him down. So he goes up to Chase Bank there at Bedford, and Paul Chase talks to him, this, that, and the other, and decides to take a chance on him. So he turns around and, does okay or whatever, but at the time, the oil companies would give you about 12 days float on your money. So what you sold to, what you picked up today, you would pay for 12 days down the road.
Okay.
So he went up to Donnie Radcliffe, which was a station on the south side of Bedford, there on Old 37. It's still there. It's a Marathon, and the Snow's drive-in is beside it. When you go north.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about. Okay. I was trying to think where
and all three of these were the big stations.
Okay.
So that was a big station there. And then you had Lincoln Avenue, which I later bought, and then the station there at 16th Street. Those two were owned by Opal Hall.
And was that where the Sprint station?
No.
Okay, different place.
No, it's where Jerry's restaurant was. You remember the Jerry's restaurant?
I gotta think. I don't know.
Yeah, up on the hill there. I really don't know how to tell you because there's nothing around it right there. You know where the boys' club is?
Yeah.
Well, just go west on 16th about a half a block, and it would be right there, almost up on top of the hill on the north side of the road.
Oh, okay, north side. I was thinking south
north side of the road.
Okay.
And so anyway, so Dad picked up those three guys they didn't have semis. And so he picked up them on the agreement that he would haul fuel into them at a very low rate if they would pay him on delivery.
Oh, okay.
And so Dad turned around. We had a binders, what we called it. It was a gas engine international cab over. And that's what we hauled fuel with in the beginning. That's what we bought when he bought Tolliver Oil.
Gas
engine. And it would take about 4.5 hours to go run a load out of like Seymour. I mean, it's just unreal. The engine, you just couldn't pull.
So how many you couldn't haul a whole?
It's a steel tanker, and I want to say it's 5,800 gallon.
That's probably a heck of a load on that thing. A gas engine.
Oh yeah. I mean, you try to come on Medora Hill, and I mean, you was at 5 mile an hour, 8 mile an hour, all the way up it.
And that's what we were talking about earlier. These guys talking about they don't have 700 horsepower. Look what you were doing. You're still doing the same thing with what would that thing been? 200 horsepower, maybe?
225. I don't know what it did. I mean, it wasn't shit.
Oh my gosh! I bet you got a heck of a run at that hill to try to get over it.
Well, you come across from Brownstown there. And you could get it up to 75 mile an hour.
Wow.
And you'd hit that hill at 75, and I swear you would shift down as fast as you could go.
I bet.
And you'd be down there at 10 mile an hour in no time.
Oh, I'm sure.
But anyway, so he ran into there, and what he done is he paid at the time, he paid $30,000, and 75 paid $30,000 for Tolliver Oil products. And he turned around then, and through selling it to them that way. What he done was he bought a 76 Peterbilt, and it was already kind of a year old. It had been made earlier in the year, whatever. Yeah. And the person that ordered it didn't end up taking the truck, and so they had a hard time selling this truck because it was. We say that it was a screwed up truck.
I remember you telling me that.
Yeah. It had a 290 engine in it.
Yeah.
And it was like a Formula 300 or Formula 350. They only went to 1,800 RPM, and you basically had to get the gear at 1,400 or 1,500. They only had a real narrow power band in there, and if you got below 14 much or 13, you was below the turbo, and so it wouldn't pull. And so it had a 6-speed Spicer transmission in it. And that was a Mack transmission, if I understand right. And but the problem was a Mac had a real wide band. It RPM wise, you could shift and let the RPMs drop way down, and the Mac engine would
they are
recover.
different.
A Cummins wouldn't do that.
Right.
So like coming out of Mitchell, we come out of Mitchell and you come to Orleans, that's all uphill till you get out there to the drive-in theater. Well, you couldn't get out of fifth gear. You'd be stuck in fifth gear all the way up through there until you broke over the little knoll before you could bring her into high gear.
That's the one you were talking about, and I thought it seemed weird that you could only keep it in fourth, but you said because it only had 5 gears, you're way far apart on your gears, so it's not like a 10-speed.
It had 6 gear. It had 6 gears, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
But yeah, it was way far apart, and so you couldn't.
You probably had to have that thing just racked out.
Yeah.
However, 1800
you
RPM.
Did, you did. And it had to be, you had to be like on a downhill side to get her get her in high gear or flat. You had to be perfect flat ground, and that's just funny how that happens. But anyway, Opal Hall. So here's the story. So Opal Hall loaned him the $10,000 then to buy that truck, which that truck there was $32,000. So in '76 he bought a Peterbilt for $32,000. In '87 he bought a super decked out Peterbilt for $72,000. And so when he bought this, the way they worked this deal out, I mean, this is just old time shit. They had so many loads that Dad had to pull.
Okay.
And once he'd hauled so many loads in there, it was paid for. So there at the Lincoln Avenue station, in the back of it, there was a wood a shelving made of 2x4 wood. Mm-hmm. And when we'd haul a load in there, you'd go back there and you just put a mark on the wood, on the side, the part to come out the side. You just put a mark on there. Where you got 4, you put a cross hash, and you counted the loads. I don't remember how many loads it was. I don't remember that, but I remember they would both go back there and Opal Hall, he'd mark a mark on there, or Dad would mark a mark on there, and that's how they worked it out. So the day that Dad pulled the last load in there, I was with him. And we pull in there, and Opal has this bright red Cadillac sitting out there. Well, he went down to, I think that was Chase, I believe, that had the Cadillac dealership, I think. But there was a Cadillac dealership there in Bedford, and he went and picked up this Cadillac. And so he comes in there, and we're delivering that load, and Opal comes in there and says, Dad said, well, this is the last load. We're done with our deal on the $10,000. And Opal says, John, he says, I think you and your wife need a red Cadillac. So he went down and got that brand new Cadillac to try to sell that to Dad, to get Dad to continue to haul the way we were. And Dad said, no, Opal, I need to make some money now. He said, I'm going to have to start charging you. And so that station, I bought that station then, those years later.
Okay.
And so first thing I did, I went back there to see if that shelf was there.
Oh, really?
And the shelf was not.
And did you buy it from him?
Yeah, I bought it from Opal for $25,000.
Well, that's a good deal.
Yeah. And when, we got in such a mess, I can tell you so many crazy stories that sound like lies. When I bought that, it had a very small building. I mean, just small.
Yeah.
And so I went to build, a bigger station because there at Paola we had a small station, a small building.
Yeah, that was a little bit.
So when I did, I go to the zoning, which Orleans doesn't have zoning. I didn't know shit. So I go to the zoning, and first of all, when I go to talk to them, they say, well, you're not even zoned commercial. You're zoned residential. And I'm like, what? And they said, well, it got missed or something back when it was done in the 60s. And said then they, in the early 80s, they redone it again. It got missed again. And so I was kind of hung out to dry, and so I had to go through a long process to try to get it changed over to commercial.
Oh, okay.
And so in the meantime, I couldn't do shit with it. I could remodel it, as is, and this, that, and other. Well, a couple of the guys on the board was on my side. And because, it had been there, that station had been there since the 40s or 50s. And so when I redone that, the way I did it is I did it as a remodel. And they let me, the guys that kind of oversaw it, let me build around it. I said, well, I said, I need to put new walls in. I need this in there. Can I just build to the outside of it? They said, yeah. And so when I done that, of course, I pushed it a little bit to get it bigger. And they said, well, just don't get too carried away. They said, these other guys come over and see what you're doing. They're going to raise hell. And so it had a lean-to off of one end of it and just a fenced-in area. It wasn't a building; it was a fenced-in area. So I just built the thing all the way around the whole deal. And so when we got this built, then I could not. I built these walls, and I could not put a complete roof on it. The only way I could put a roof on it is I had to do it as a remodel. I could put a roof on this end, and then I put a roof on that end. So when we got this built, and I've got pictures of this. We got this built. We carried the old building out block by block. We carried it out the front door.
Wow.
And it's just crazy how stuff. But anyway, that's what we done in order to.
And it was all just because of the zoning?
It's all because of the zoning.
Gosh.
And I didn't have the money to fight. I mean, I didn't
Yeah.
have money and time to wait to do it. You see what I'm saying?
Makes you love the government when you got to go
Absolutely.
through stuff.
Absolutely. But anyway, all that stuff, all that stuff's just great, crazy stories. I mean, just silly stuff.
But so when you talk about this stuff, I think some people that have never owned a business don't realize the struggle that. And you were talking about, and I wanted you to talk about that, the deal where you were like, you said you were 11 and went and got the gas.
Well,
and because the reason I say that, because you said your dad had just started, and
and it sounds like a lie. When I tell it, it sounds like I'm telling a lie.
No, but people, if you've never ran your own business, you don't understand the sacrifices you really have to make to get stuff done sometimes. And so I want you to tell that story, because I remember you telling me that like 20 years ago, and I never forgot it.
Yeah. Well, of course, when we bought Baker Oil, Dad didn't have much money or nothing, didn't have anybody backing him, his family didn't have money. Mm-hmm. And so we turned around in that first year. Of course, again, I'm 10, 11 years old, and I just remember Mom and Dad standing at, there's a podium thing that was in the office there, and they were struggling. And so then, if you remember your history back in 76 and 78,
I just want to make sure it's still going. Yeah.
Okay. If you remember your history, and I'm sure your dad's told you about it, but back in 76 and 78, those years in there, we had super cold winters. And so in 76, the Ohio River froze over, and it was froze over for 30 days.
Wow.
In 78, you had the big blizzard where 3 foot of snow came. Mm-hmm. And we were shut down for a month at that point.
Extremely cold too, right?
Yeah.
Drifts. Yeah. I've heard all the drifts.
Drifts, and it stayed. The snow stayed. There was piles still in March that were still around. You could find them. And but anyway, but 76, Dad had just bought that Peterbilt, and the Ohio River froze over, and we were without fuel because at that time you brought your crude oil in on barge. And you had refineries there at Louisville. There was 3 refineries at the time, I think, at Louisville, which now there's not a refinery there at all. And so, Dad is in a panic, and he starts calling around trying to find fuel somewhere because they're out down there. And I mean, around here, you just couldn't get any. So he calls Gulf over at West Virginia, and he talks to the guy and explains the situation. And my dad at the time, my dad had been 30, 31 years old at the time. And he tells me, I've just bought this, I'm in trouble, I'm going to go broke if I don't find some fuel. So that guy turned him loose with fuel in West Virginia. He said, I'll give you all you can haul. So we would go over there, and we run the truck just around the clock. And, I mean, when I say that, I mean...
Yeah, I'm sure.
So Mom went over with him some. And she drove, to let him rest. And she gets pulled over for, I don't know what the infraction was. I can't believe it was speeding, but she gets pulled over for something. And they swap seats.
Oh, okay.
And Mom, after that, refused to drive. She never drove again after that. And of course, he just put her in the seat and basically got it in high gear and let her drive.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so we when, and I'll tell you this too, every load we had, if we didn't have a home for it, we took it, we'd get a load of diesel then and take it to the foundry there at Bedford. And they had a standing order from us at that time that all we could haul, just put it in there. And I forget how big the tank was, but I mean, their tank is huge.
Was this in the ground tank?
No, above ground tank. Great big. I mean, it's the biggest tank around here I ever saw. And so, so we go in there, and just as a kid, I can remember the meter, when we were pumping into it, the meter going out into the foundry would be going 1, 2, 3, 4. That's many gallons they were using while we were trying to pump in and fill it up.
Wow.
And and then the same thing, they were in trouble because you couldn't get fuel.
Yeah.
And we would take like the Shell station, the Sunoco station down at Pale, those are two that I remember. They would take their trucks and follow us over there. And so we would put our sign, Baker Oil Company, on the side of their truck when we got there. And then we would go in and load them. And they would pay Dad X number of dollars for that. But really, so then when all this is said and done, the Ohio River starts to thaw out, and so they start to get some fuel into Louisville. Well, that first week or 10 days or whatever, still any fuel you could get a hold of was like gold because everybody was out.
Yeah.
And so, during all that time, I rode with Dad a lot. Just my job was keep him awake. Mm-hmm. And so we pull outside of Orleans on 337, and he says, "You want to drive?" And I said, "Well, yeah." And so I thought, so I kind of get up to get over on his lap, and he gets out of the truck. And so I'm kind of standing in the middle between the seats, kind of this, that, and the other. And he goes around the other side and gets in the passenger side. And he said, he goes, you're going to drive us down there. He said, "I've got to get some rest." And so, of course, I mean, I'd driven some or whatever. I'm 11 years old. And I'm a little beanpole. I'm not some big 11-year-old. And
this is with the 6-speed truck.
Yeah, this is and the fact that it had that 6-speed.
Yeah.
And of course out there at Hall Trucking, my uncles they would let me go around back behind and hook onto the trailers and try to bring the trailers around to the front.
Yeah.
And I'd try to back in, and I never could get them backed in, but they'd let me screw around with them. And then when they needed it, they'd come out and get it and back it in.
Okay.
But they'd send me with such and such cab over, the little Ford truck. They'd send me back. So I mean, I'd done some things like that, but still I'm 11 years old.
Right.
So he stops the truck, that semi, and again, it's a 76 Peterbilt, brand new. I mean, it didn't have 40,000 miles on it. You know what I mean? And so we stop right there in front of where Greg Kendall's is right now.
Yep.
On the highway. Mm-hmm. And so I take off from there, and the things I remember about it, again, I'm 11. I mean, it's just kind of, but I remember as when I got to Salem, at that time you come up to the stoplight there where you would turn to the right and go straight into the square, the circle square. And of course I knew that stoplight was coming, and it's on an uphill grade.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Right.
So I was panicked that I was going to have to stop that truck. And so I get it out of gear, and I can't get so much back in gear. And Dad's over asleep with his head banging against the window. And of course, he can hear me grinding, trying to find a gear. And he wakes up and reaches over there and finds a gear for me and gets it into gear. And we go, he stays awake, and we go around the square. We go down to where you turn to the left to go back out 60.
Yeah, right.
And he goes back to sleep. So I go down through there, and it started snowing. And so the road covered up with snow. And I was running about 45 to 50 mile an hour. It's about, I don't really know that I ever got up to 55. Mm-hmm. but I'd run about 50 mile an hour. And you had the lanes where cars had been, to mark the road. And so again, and I remember this. You're scared to death.
Yeah.
But I get down to Hamburg, and got across the railroad tracks. Got the stoplight turn, and of course, again,
Panic sets in. I hope it's green.
And I get down there and I do the exact same thing. I go to shift and I get it out of gear, and I can't find a gear. So he wakes up and gets it into gear, and we go over the tracks there. I get it turned, I get over the tracks, and where Ashland was down there is right below the Colgate sign. The big clock.
Yeah.
It's not there no more.
Okay.
But that's where it was.
So it was in Indiana, though.
It was
in
that was a
Albany
Clarksville
or
side.
Jeffersonville.
Well, you had an Ashland over, like at Bell's Lane over in Louisville,
Yeah.
and then you had this one here at Clarksville. And so I go all the way down there, and you turn the exit right before the bridge and go down in whatever, and I get all the way down in there, and he wakes up, as I get off. As I turn there at the bridge, he wakes up and gets me through the small streets to get in there, and we load the truck. And of course, he then brought the truck back. But I told that many times, and I know it sounds like a lie,
No.
But when you're broke, and we were broke, when you're broke, you'll do stupid shit. and my dad, I was put in a lot of those situations with my dad and my uncles on the Baker side, and even Frank and JC. I mean, there's things that I did that
was a different time for one thing. I mean, but no, and that's what I wanted to bring that up, because I was like, anybody that's, when it's not. Some people that say you do have, like, their family's already got an operation running and you're just kind of stepping into it, but dad's still running everything.
Yeah.
That's not the same as what you're talking about. Starting from nothing, everything's on the line. You're willing to do.
Well, people would possibly think that, my dad married Janie Hall. Well, the problem was Grandpa was broke too. All the racing and this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
He didn't have money. So, I mean, Dad knew that, if this didn't go, I mean, he was going to lose what he had made, and this, that, and the other. And I really don't know. I've done some things with my boys, but not something like that.
No.
And again, you don't risk something like that unless you have to.
Yeah, exactly.
And I knew, and of course, when you're raised with those type men around you, when he told me to drive the truck, then, well, first of all, there was no option. He told you to. You're gonna whoop your ass if you don't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I mean, I didn't think nothing of it. And Johnny, I didn't think nothing of it really, and I didn't until I was 18 years old. And when I was 18 years old, I can remember going to Todd and Chad's, those the twin cousins, Todd and Chad Hall. Mm-hmm. I can remember going to their 11th birthday party, and I get there and I'm there, and all of a sudden it just comes to me. I was like, son of a bitch. I was that age when I done that. And they were about like me. They were just little bean poles.
Yeah.
I mean, not my oldest son Johnny, when he was 11, he was about like a 14-year-old. He's a big boy.
Right.
But I was not that way at all.
Yeah.
And I wasn't able to clutch stuff until I was about 9 years old.
Well, I was going to say, these are not easy pedal clutches either. I mean, you got to have a pretty strong leg to push that clutch down. I'm sure.
For an 11-year-old and that great big wheel,
Yeah.
I mean, you can't believe your wheels up here.
Oh, yeah.
And your foot, you're way down there trying to
Yeah.
hold the clutch down with your butt off of the seat.
Would that truck have power steering or not?
It had power steering,
Okay.
yes. Yeah,
This
I could
may-
not.
it
Now
might have
listen,
been
I
in-
could not have done if it had power
It might have
steering.
been an air assisted. That old, really old.
That I don't. It's a
Okay.
76. I don't recall. I don't recall that part. Well, the 76 that I do own has power steering, so
Okay.
I'd say it had power steering.
Okay.
But anyway, that's some of the crazy shit that's been done. That's probably one of the more stupid things that.
I couldn't believe it. I always thought you were 13, so you're even younger than what I
Yeah,
thought
it's
it
11
was.
years old.
Yeah, that's amazing.
78, I'd have been 13, but that wasn't when this
Okay.
was. It was 2 years before when there wasn't no blizzard. The Ohio River had just froze over is what happened.
Wow.
But it done that in 78 and it done it in 76. But in 76, I believe I'm telling you right, 76 is the one where you'll see pictures of people walking across the whole
I've heard of it
Ohio
before,
River
but I
at
didn't
the
know what it
Kennedy
was.
Bridge.
Yeah,
and they did that. I mean, it froze, I mean, solid.
Yeah, we just don't get weather like that anymore because, I mean, this past winter, that was probably the longest I saw snow on the ground. Normally we get a snow and 2 days later it's gone. We had probably
Johnny,
had snow on the ground for a month.
I mean, don't quote me 100%, but it was 24 below zero
Wow.
in those years. And there was a period where for 7 days, if I remember right, it did not get above zero. And of course, our frost sign, here is based on the weather.
Right,
so
right.
so you bury things at 2 feet or 18 inches. Well, never do you have below zero temperatures for 7 days.
No.
So everybody's stuff, the ground froze deeper than it's supposed to.
I get it.
And so everybody's homes and everybody's stuff was freezing up. It was pretty unbelievable at the time.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So you were talking about, that's one thing you started on it, but the old building, and I'll put a picture of the Quonset hut that you still have. You were talking about your grandpa was in racing. So talk about that. I didn't even know that till the other day.
Well,
maybe you can you probably got some pictures or something you can send me,
yeah,
can't you?
I can see some pictures.
So,
In the late 40s, he evidently drove a car. And he drove I think he owned a car, but he drove also Diz Wilson's car. And Diz Wilson, he built the Bloomington track, he built the Mitchell track, which was the Mitchell track that's out by Spring Mill, and he owned it. He built the one that was on 37 behind Briscoe's. He built that one, and he helped build the Salem track. Okay. And I mean, he wasn't no big businessman. I mean, he had a shop and worked on cars and this, that, and the other. And so the story goes that in 48 or so, he flipped a car out of Salem. And my grandmother was in the stands. And evidently, I think my mom was with her. And she said, "That's it. No more racing.
yeah.
You got these kids, no more racing." So at that point, he bought Champ cars, which are Indy cars. And so from 49 to 67, he had cars up there at the track, but only qualified 2 years, 51 and 59. And in 59, there was 2 cars from Orleans in the race.
That's pretty cool.
Wheeler Fouch had one as Leroy Wheeler, and or Leroy Fouch and Bill Wheeler, I believe. Bill or no, Eddie. Bill's the wife. But anyway, so there was 2 cars from Orleans in the 59 500 that had to be neat.
Wow. So they finished, do you know? Were they placed or anything?
Let's see. The Wheeler Fouch car was put out in the first wreck of the day, so he was 28th or something, 30th, something like that. And Grandpa, I think, finished 15th in 59 and 19th, I think, in 51. And had a clutch problem in 51. And in 59, they finished the whole 200 laps, but there was tons of cars on the lead lap, and he was back there at the back of them. And Grandpa's cars was always, back marker cars. It was never top-notch stuff. You know what I mean? The last car he had was a rear-engine Shrike. That's the only brand new car he ever bought. And they showed up, and the story goes, they showed up at the track and thought, hey, we may have a chance here, you know, to compete, just to compete. And they showed up, and all of a sudden, everybody had turbos. Now, it might have been superchargers, but I think it was turbos. But there was like 6 guys, 7 guys with turbos, and so they was 2 mile an hour faster than everybody. And but anyway, but that's the racing and stuff from 49, and 49 is when the Quonset hut was built out there that we was at. And before the Quonset hut, Grandpa built the town hall there at Orleans, and that's right there by his house. So the town hall where
really?
the office, that was Hall Trucking
I didn't know
at that time. Yeah.
Wow.
And he ran a farm implement business out of it also.
Okay.
And the Case building there, that school, that remember the ag building that we went down there to across from Baker Oil, he built that, and that's where he run his first dump trucks out of.
Okay.
And he had Case. There was a big Case sign out on the front of it. My Uncle Frank still has the Case sign.
And that was the metal shop at one time, wasn't it?
Yeah.
See, they built the one up the school. I've never even been in that building,
but it's kind of that yellow brick building down
but
there.
My dad said I think back when he was in high school, it was still a shop back then.
Yeah, and you know, so. And are we talking about the racing, or what part are we talking about? What was you asking me about? Which part?
I just thought it was cool that old building, that old Quonset hut had Indy cars in it.
Well, there's a 2-car garage back behind there, and that 2-car garage he built for the Indy cars.
And it's in that picture I've got.
I think it is.
Yeah.
Yep. And it's got the I think they call them pots or something poured in the concrete where you can pull frames and stuff.
Yeah, right.
And when I was a kid, he was done with his racing. Of course, I was born in 65. He was done in 67. The last 2 cars were brought back there and put in the garage back there. And so I don't know really my age for sure. But he'd come get me, and we'd go back there, and he'd just pull up to the front of it, and he would let me get out. And I'd go open the door and go in there, and I'd play in those cars.
Wow.
He wouldn't get out. He was an alcoholic at the time, and he wouldn't. Oftentimes he didn't get out, or might come get me, tell me, come on, where to go. But I would climb in those cars, and I don't. It's such a shame. I don't remember the cars. I remember the inside of them.
Oh,
I don't
right,
remember.
Right.
And my sister, there was one time when my sister, and now this only happened the one time I know of. But we go out there, and the rear engine car, that last car he had, the rear engine car, she gets in the car, and so she's got a hold of the wheel, and I got down in the car head first and was pushing the pedals. You know how kids just do stupid shit.
Yeah.
And I can remember the pedals. I swear to God, I think I can remember the pedals better than I can the car.
I bet.
But that is the only car. That's the only car that he had that is still known to exist. And I'm going to say where it's at because I'd like to get a hold of it someday. But people don't know where it's at.
You still know where it is?
I do. I just found out in the last 5 years.
Oh, okay.
But
that's that was going to be my next question. Whatever happened to the cars?
And that's the only one I've ever been able to find. The Hallmark Special, which he had from 58 through 64, that one there is the only Curtis Craft car that is lost. They don't know where it's at. No. And they had VIN numbers on them, but the Curtis Craft cars were from back in the late 40s, early 50s, all the way up through. They were the cars that dominated up there for years.
Okay. And isn't there some kind of pictures or something up in the museum at Indianapolis?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's stuff.
Okay.
I mean, there's stuff about him all around. People just don't realize it because there wasn't anything big about what he did except that he did it. And but I will tell you this: like growing up, there's drivers that people don't realize that were big name drivers that were right here in Mitchell and drove for Grandpa or whatever. But Mitchell Diz Wilson, like Johnny Rutherford, lived in Mitchell for a while to drive Diz Wilson's sprint car.
Really?
Gordon Johncock, who won the 500 twice, and ended up being a track champion. He got his first ride in an Indy car, in Grandpa's car. Roger Ward, who was a big name driver for years and years. In the very beginning, he drove 7 races for Grandpa. Got their start. And I've had a lot of people say, just like Donald Davison, who's the historian up there at the track or whatever. He said, people don't realize the importance of people like your grandfather that was there for years and years. Said all these guys that come on got their start through somebody like that.
Yeah.
You don't just get in a top-notch car. You got to have somebody that'll let you drive a little bit or whatever, and that was Grandpa. But let me tell you one funny story, and I've got a picture I'll give you of it too. Do you remember, and again, our difference in age, was Carpenter Body Works even open when do you remember?
Yeah, it was because my dad's dad worked there.
Okay.
And I know he retired from there while I was probably, I don't remember what year they would have closed. It would probably in the late 80s, wasn't it? Because I remember him retiring, but I have no idea. I would guess probably around.
I guess it was in the early 90s that they actually closed up.
Okay.
Because I was in business, and they owed me a bunch of money at the time, and it scared the shit out of me.
Oh, I bet.
And the people in the office, and I think this is the truth, the people in the office told me, we'll make sure you get your money. Like all the local people, they tried to make sure everybody got their money.
So was this a bankruptcy? Did they go bankrupt?
I believe they did. I don't remember, but when they closed up, I know they were out of money and they were having problems, and I believe it was bankruptcy, and they sold all the stuff off, if I remember right.
Real quick before you do that, did you ever back into those docks where
those low docks? Yeah.
Do you remember a Batman tank top hanging there?
No.
Okay. Well, I hauled out there when it was it MII? The Mitchell Industries, whatever.
Yeah.
Well, I hauled out there for myself. They were a direct customer of mine, and I went back to the loading dock. There's a Batman tank top hanging off the edge of that thing. I was like, "What's up with the tank top?" And they said, "A guy used to work here, and that's what his nickname was, Batman. He hung that up in like 1977. It's been hanging there ever since."
That's it.
And this is like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Something like that,
Yeah.
It's like, so I didn't know if you ever saw
No,
that.
I did not. But I will tell you, there was 2 4 1/4 cats that were kind of dominant trucks.
Yeah.
That I run that 444 against.
Yeah.
And they were Carpenter Body Works trucks. When they sold them to Mullis.
Okay.
And Mullis then hauled fuel with them. And that's who I would run with or whatever.
The Freightliners.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, they were Kenworths. They were Kenworths.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the ones you
cat.
bought. I got you.
No. But the trucks at the time that were the strong running trucks.
Oh,
is
yeah.
what I'm talking about.
Right.
So what was I? Okay, Carpenter Body Works. So I've got a picture of that area between the Cocoline station and what is now Hoosier Hills. On
right.
the
Yep.
Well, that at one time was all full of Carpenter buses.
The
That
big
whole
lot
field-
they've been trying to
Yeah,
sell forever?
Yeah.
Okay.
Full of them.
Wow.
I mean, that's all. When we was a kid, that's all. I mean, that thing was yellow. It was full of buses. And but anyway, in the 50s, when Grandpa would go, like when they go out west or something to race, carpenters would give them buses to deliver. And so the crew, like if you had 5 guys going, they'd give you 5 buses, and you'd take 5 buses out and deliver out there somewhere.
Gotcha.
And that's how Grandpa paid for like fuel and this and
Yeah.
accommodations or whatever. The money they made by taking it out there, they spent on hotel and food
Wow.
and this, that, and the other. And so one time they go out there, and I want to say they were racing in Arizona, but I can't remember the town. And the buses were to be delivered on out in California. So they went out a little early, and they used the station wagon to pull the race car with. Mm-hmm. So they get out there, and they just drop the trailer with the race car, and they just go on. and they didn't want to pull it on out and bring it back. You know what I mean? So when they get back, somebody had stole the tires off of it, tires and rims, and the fuel cans. And so they had to borrow fuel cans. And then the funny story on it was, I think it was one of the drivers, which there's two famous drivers from North Vernon, and it was either Pat. Let's see, Flaherty, which was the Flaherty. Flaherty is the one, I believe, that gave him the tires and stuff. They gave him tires and fuel cans to run that day, and they laughed because Grandpa's car didn't run good very often, and his car run sixth that day and beat the guy that gave him the tires and stuff. But that was just always a funny story. And I'll tell you another funny one, different than today. They went out west one time, and I don't know how this come about, but like they're going to meet out there at the track, and they get there to the track, and nobody brought the car.
Oh.
They got out there, and everybody thought the other one was going to hook to the car and take it, and nobody took the car out there. So they get out there to the race, and there's no car to run. They had to watch. But all that stuff is just neat to think when you look at that Quonset hut and you see how small it is.
Yeah.
And you realize that somebody generated enough money to run Indy cars, even though he wasn't top notch, but still just to be there was a big deal.
Oh, sure.
But that money, a lot of that money, Johnny, was made off of Travelers, and they made the TVs.
Yeah.
And they would come out of Orleans there with 7 or 9 loads going to Chicago a night, and that's a lot of TVs.
And that's when regulation was going on.
Yeah.
And so they probably had a good thing going on back then, didn't they?
Yeah, he made good money back then, and but they take. I mean, I've always been told this. They take 7 loads, 9 loads a night up to Chicago to the airport, and they'd fly they'd fly them out.
That's a lot of TVs. You're right. I mean,
yeah, and but people don't realize how young people like yourself. I grew up at the end of Traveler and at the end of that building. You know what I mean? At the end of in your lifetime, that building's done nothing. That's a huge building.
I worked there. I worked there for the last 6 months it was open. So I graduated in 2000. I got hired there probably June or July of 2000 and worked there right till the last couple days of the year.
Was that Essex?
Yeah.
So
I was actually going to ask you that. Which one was built first, Travelers or where Baker Oil is? Which one of those buildings is older?
I guarantee you it's Baker Oil, just because I know that Baker Oil, Aetna, was there in the 30s.
Okay.
And there might have been part of that building back there that maybe was built in the 30s, but I don't think so. I'd say the 40s. I say 40s and 50s is when, but somebody like John Nowlet could answer that.
Oh,
but that building's been built onto several times. You know what I mean?
It's a huge building. It's a shame it's set. Here we are. 24 years it's set empty now.
Yeah.
And I'm glad when Pale Incorporated went out, I'm glad that JSI stepped in, never missed a beat.
Oh yeah.
Because we wouldn't want two giant empty factories right here.
Absolutely.
But anyway, when we were talking about your truck number, everything's 1-71. That's what your grandpa's racing number was, 71. So when you race, that's yours, and everything you had on your trucks is always something to do with 71.
Yeah.
And I know we were going to say that earlier.
Pretty well 59 through about 1949 through 59, his car was mainly 71.
Okay.
And then in 60 and 61, there's some years in there that his car then was 79. So if you look, I've got a lot of trailers that are 79 and the trucks are 71.
Okay.
So like 171, 271, 371.
Is there any reason for 71?
I never knew what the reason for 71 is, but I will tell you this. Diz Wilson had the number 71 on his cars. So I don't know if, I got a feeling that number may have come from Diz Wilson. And Diz Wilson was the mechanic on the car. He never drove.
Okay.
He was a mechanic on the cars. And I'll tell this, if you're kind of catching this little bit of history of shit, The Lehigh over there, the Martin brothers come from Lehigh, Pennsylvania, to do the trucking here for Lehigh and Mitchell.
Wow.
And so they had a trucking company in Bethlehem, PA. And so when they branch out, when the cement company branches out to Mitchell, they hire them to bring their trucks, and they just grew by coming here and running the cement. Okay? So they had, in the early 50s, they had cars in the 500.
Wow.
And Grandpa had cars in the 500.
Yeah.
And Diz Wilson helped both of them.
Okay.
And so I'm guessing, and this is just my guess, I'm guessing both of them realized they spending too much money and they was probably running low on money by 57, 58. So they went together.
Okay.
And so it was Hallmar, which is Carl Hall and Barney Martin, and I can't think of the other. There was Martin Brothers, but I can't think of the other one right now. But anyway, so that was the Hallmar special, and they run it from 57, 58 through 64 combined. And it just, I don't know, it's just kind of funny. But there was a lot of, the Kinzers that's done all their stuff, they watched these guys run 500 and this, that, and the other, and they bought one of the cars, which was the Wheeler Fouch car, and Diz Wilson, of course, was a mentor to Kinzer and them, and it's just kind of funny how there's a little mecca right here that you don't kind of realize.
Oh yeah.
Some great stuff happened. You know what
Well,
I mean?
I just thought that was, I didn't, until a couple of days ago, I had no idea there were Indy cars in there that they ran. I just thought, well, you talk about just that little Quonset hut
Yeah.
in our little town.
Yeah.